The dog insisted on waiting every day at the edge of a storm drain, simply staring into it. No one could understand the reason behind this strange behavior. One day, the cover of that drain was finally opened. What came out, and the reason the dog had waited there for days, was unbelievable. Mazgal, a dog living on the streets of Turkey, wandered around with his dirty and unkempt fur, treating those streets like a second home. His daily routine was spent sniffing around in search of any food or water he could find. That morning it started like any other. He walked cheerfully, wagging his tail at passers-by and giving friendly looks to the people who walked past him. One day, as Mazgal was wandering the streets like he always did, he suddenly caught the mouth-watering scent of something in the air. He lowered his nose to the ground to follow the trail and soon found himself standing in front of a butcher shop. Peering through the window, he saw customers inside selecting large cuts of meat for their dinner. He hadn't eaten anything for days and was starving. Inside the shop, a young woman named Elif was paying for a few large steaks. She thanked the butcher and stepped outside, starting to walk toward her home. But just then, she heard a whimpering sound behind her. Startled, she turned around to see Mazgal, the stray dog, looking at her with sad eyes. She could even hear his stomach growling, and in that moment, Elif understood the truth. This dog clearly lived on the streets and was very hungry. Confronted with a hungry animal, Elif's heart ached. She glanced at the fresh steaks in her hands, and without a second thought, turned back into the shop to ask the butcher if he had any leftover scraps or bones. The butcher gladly handed her several large bone pieces. Elif thanked him and left the shop, carefully scanning the area. Before long, she spotted Mazgal watching her from a distance. Elif slowly crouched down and, using a gentle voice, held out the bone she had gotten for him. At first, Mazgal was cautious and didn't want to get too close to her. But as Elif patiently kept her hand extended, the dog gradually approached and took the bone between his teeth. In that moment, a warm feeling spread through Elif's heart. Mazgal had started wagging his tail, and she knew she had earned his trust. However, the dog didn't eat the bone right there. Instead, he carefully picked it up and began walking away towards somewhere else. Elif was a little surprised to see Mazgal take the bone and leave so quickly, but she didn't want to question it. She quietly stood up and, feeling somewhat relieved, headed home. The next day, while walking down the same street, Elif saw Mazgal again. The dog noticed her immediately and ran toward her excitedly, wagging his tail rapidly. Seeing Mazgal's genuine, joyful greeting made Elif smile, and she spent a few minutes petting his head and giving him some affection. But that day, Elif had important errands to run and couldn't stay long. Still, she didn't want to leave him hungry. She bought him a sausage from a nearby shop. When she offered it, Mazgal gratefully took it, but once again he didn't eat it right away. He quietly turned and walked off just as he had before. Elif was curious about this strange behavior, but she didn't have time to follow him that day. On the third day, Elif found Mazgal again, but this time he seemed to be waiting for her, sitting and watching the street without taking his eyes off it. Elif was prepared now. She always kept treats in her bag to give him. As she approached the dog, she smiled and spoke to him softly while holding out the food. As usual, Mazgal took the treats and then turned around to walk away. But this time, Elif didn't want to just leave him. She quietly followed behind, carefully watching to see where he was going. Together they crossed a busy street, and Elif saw Mazgal heading toward a storm drain. The dog sat down at the edge of the drain and began staring intently inside. Elif watched in surprise as Mazgal carefully picked up one of the treats she had given him and gently dropped it into the drain, then ate the rest himself. She was frozen in place by what she saw. What was this dog doing? For the next few days, Elif kept finding Mazgal in the same spot. Each time, he was sitting at the edge of the storm drain, staring down into it. Whenever she brought him food, he did the same thing, carefully dropping part of it into the drain and eating the rest himself. This strange behavior made Elif more and more curious until she finally couldn't resist and decided to look into the drain herself. Elif carefully approached the drain. She was a little nervous about how Mazgal might react, but the dog only watched her with calm, curious eyes. When Elif reached the very edge of the drain, she took a deep breath and looked down and froze at what she saw. Shocked, she quickly stepped back and immediately pulled out her phone to call the fire department. About half an hour later, a few firefighters arrived at the scene and asked Elif what was going on. Elif excitedly explained what she had seen, and the team sprang into action right away. As they moved toward the drain and prepared to open the cover, Mazgal suddenly started growling, baring his teeth and lunging forward in a threatening way. The firefighters jumped back in surprise. No one wanted to get bitten, and they didn't know what to do. But Elif knew exactly what to do. She slowly approached Mazgal, speaking to him in a calm voice, explaining that the men were only there to help. Then she took a treat from her pocket and carefully held it out to him. As soon as Mazgal caught the scent, his growling eased and he began taking slow steps toward Elif. She gently grabbed hold of him and guided him away from the drain and the firefighters. Once Mazgal was safely out of the way, the firefighters breathed a sigh of relief and started opening the cover. Meanwhile, the street around the drain had become crowded with curious onlookers watching everything unfold. After a few tense minutes, the firefighters finally revealed why Mazgal had been keeping watch at the drain for days. One firefighter carefully emerged from the opening with a tiny kitten cradled in his arms. The crowd fell silent at the sight, but it didn't end there. The same firefighter went back down 4 more times, each time returning with another kitten in his arms. Elif couldn't believe what she was seeing. She had suspected there was something down in the drain, but she never expected to find 5 tiny kittens trapped inside. In shock, Elif turned to the firefighters and asked how such tiny kittens could have ended up down there. One of the firefighters explained that they had likely been swept into the drain during a heavy rainstorm but had somehow managed to survive. The most surprising part was that, despite being stuck for days, they hadn't starved. Hearing this, Elif turned her gaze to Mazgal and realized the true role of that loyal dog who had made sure to bring them food every single day. Faced with such a kind and selfless act, Elif immediately knew what she wanted to do. She turned to the firefighters and told them she wanted to take the kittens home and care for them until they were big enough. The firefighters gladly agreed and handed the tiny kittens over to her. Elif carefully gathered them in her arms and began walking home. After a few steps, she stopped and turned back to call to Mazgal, who was waiting behind. "Come on, Mazgal," she said with a smile. "We're going home now." Mazgal ran toward her happily, wagging his tail as he joined her side. Elif raised the kittens and found warm, loving homes for 4 of them. But she decided to keep one, naming her Tarchan. Mazgal, too, finally found a real home. Elif just couldn't bear to leave her loyal friend on the streets. Now they were all a family, bound together with love and care. Do you have a story like this? Have you ever helped a stray animal or have a dog or cat with whom you share a special bond? Share your story in the comments below so we can talk about it together. Please don't forget to like the video, share it with your loved ones, and subscribe to the channel.